This is the Voices of Herriman podcast, the podcast that amplifies the voices of our community. Nestled here in the heart of Herriman, where everyone has a story. Whether you're a Herriman native, a newcomer, or an admirer from afar, I got you on this adventure. Welcome to the Voices of Herriman. All right, guys, welcome back in. It's Kevin Allred again in Redemption Bar and Grill. This time, I've got our incumbent from District 4, Mr. Steve Shields. Councilman, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, man. Glad to be here.
Man, this is a blast, man. So let's start out talking about your family. So, Lindsay, you guys have been married for how long now?
Just short of 16 years. Next month.
16 years next month.
Yep. Happy anniversary.
Oh, there you go. Good shout out. Good shout out. Now, you guys, you have 5 kids, and you're also a blended family. Yeah.
So I have 3 older children. We call them the bigs from my first marriage. But not to get too sappy or embarrass my wife, but, she jumped in 100% from day one.
I love that.
As, stepmom. And she was in their classes being room moms and doing homework and science projects and, fixing their boo-boos and, cooking them dinner, and from the moment without any hesitation ever. And she's got great relationships with all of them, independent of me. She has her own, what we call it, codes, shortcut talk with them.
I love that.
And shorthand, that's the word I'm looking for with them. And their own sense of humor and their own little verbal cues with their, they're great. She's awesome. Then we have, we tried for several years to have a baby, and that's a whole... we should do that on another podcast, right? We'll talk about the whole...
Let's talk about blended families. That's a rough go.
Dude, that is... for anybody who's ever struggled with infertility and that issue, nothing but sympathy and empathy for the challenges that is. It is an emotional roller coaster.
I bet.
And so we did that for several years. And we finally just couldn't do it anymore, right? The finances to pay for all those treatments and, the emotional roller coaster was just too much. And Lindsay is adopted. All of her siblings are adopted. She grew up with, they had a couple families they were really close to. All of their children were adopted. She didn't even know until into elementary school that that's not how all families were.
Oh.
So adoption was just kind of part of the conversation for her. And so we went through that route and adopted our son. And then 11 months later, we got pregnant with our daughter, number 5. So 4 and 5 are the littles, and the other 3 are the bigs. And it's pretty awesome. I
love that. Thank you for sharing that moment with your family. Yeah, I would love to. We should have that conversation again.
That would be. It's a miraculous conversation. It's a great story.
I love that. So tell us a little bit about what Steve does for work.
Nobody wants to hear about that. It's so boring. So I can distill it down to this. I facilitate really large lines of credit for mortgage banking companies across the country. So large mortgage companies that aren't banks will get a line of credit from the bank I work at, and they will use that line of credit to fund mortgage loans. They put it on the line of credit, and then a couple of weeks later, they've sold it off to one of the GSEs or another bank or another investor or something like that. Yeah. So what the line of credit that I provide, it's called a warehouse line. They take the loan and put it in their warehouse until they're ready to sell it. So
I like that. Yeah. I like that. So you are actually a really good trumpet player, I hear.
It used to be.
Used to be. Is it like riding a bike?
No.
No,
not at all. No, it would be more like, more akin to like being in shape where you could just run a marathon at any moment. Don't do it for 20 years and then say, I'm going to go out and take a run. And you go for a mile and you'd be dead, right? Yeah. And it's that kind of a thing. There's so much conditioning and musculature and stuff that's required to perform at a high level. Unless you're sticking with it continually and repeatedly, there's atrophy and you just kind of lose that. So it's been frustrating to pick it up in the last couple of years and realize I can't do what I used to be able to do. And so a little humbling, but it's a good experience. I love playing.
And then last summer, you actually performed in our city play.
Yeah, in Cinderella.
Yeah, tell us about that experience.
Okay, so my daughter is very active in that world. She is a singer and performer. She loves that. And we went to the auditions for Cinderella for her. And we're signing her up, and Wendy Thomas, our assistant city manager, is there. She's kind of helping coordinate the auditions. And she grabs me and says, "Hey, Steve, are you here to audition?" I said, "No, I'm here for Emmy. What are you talking about?" And
Wendy got you.
And she's like, "Can you sing?" And I'm like, I've sung, but I can't really. She goes, "Come with me." And I'm like, "What is happening here?"
Yeah, you should have run the other way.
I should have run. Yeah, I should have known. She grabs me, takes me into the room. And it's like going before the American Idol judges, right? They're all standing there. And they say, "Hey, can you sing?" I'm like, "Well, not really." Like, sing something. I'm like, "Well, sing what?" And they go, "Sing Happy Birthday." So I sing a little bit of Happy Birthday. They're like, "Oh, you can sing. You're fine." And Wendy goes, "See, I found the king." And they're like, Would you really do it?" I'm like, okay. I had no idea what I was saying yes to. So they call me back a week going for callbacks, and there's 5 guys and 5 ladies, and we're reading and talking and singing. And I'm not a singer. I can play the trumpet. I can read music. I understand music. I'm not a singer. But I guess that being old and gray, it looked like a king. So they're like, "All right, he'll play the part," and it was awesome. What a cool experience. So many talented people in this city.
I love it. Tell us about how you got started into politics. What was kind of the jumpstart for you?
A series of bad decisions. No. I think that's a really good question. It was a crisis of conscience, to be honest with you. About 3 days before the county council was going to make a decision on Olympia Hills for the first time. That's the first I'd heard about it. And it hit me, how can I be a responsible citizen and have something that massive happening in our backyard and I not know anything about it? And I felt like irresponsible, uninformed, a bad citizen. I was very self-abusive about that. And so I immediately started to get involved. I got educated. I tried to figure out what was going on. I did a lot of reading. I'm a kind of a voracious reader. So I read a ton of things, read through the whole MDAs, all the stuff from the county. I spent hours and hours reading. And I finally decided this is terrible that this is happening. And luckily enough, a couple of days later, it got kind of postponed, vetoed, right?
Yeah.
So when it came back around, I was more prepared. And it was getting involved in spreading information to fellow residents, communicating the research that I had done, the information I had found out, that really kind of got me involved in talking about issues. So when the seat came open, Nicole decided not to run for District 4. Some members of the community came to me and said, "Hey, Steve, would you consider running?" For me, it became a situation where my wife and I talked about my situation in life, my schedule, my time, the kids. Is this something that I could do? I said, yeah, I think it's at a time where I could do this. And I felt like I had to put my money where my mouth was. My political beliefs are centered around the idea that as responsible citizens, we should be willing to serve in our communities. And so I put my hat in the ring. It wasn't agenda driven. Didn't have an axe to grind. or a specific, I'm going to accomplish X, Y, and Z. It was, I want to be able to represent my constituents, my neighbors, my friends in tackling these big issues that are going on in our city. Olympia Hills was right at the top of the list at that point.
Yeah.
Put my name in. You put your name in.
I did.
And we went through that process. It was a lucky timing. It was a cool experience.
Yeah.
And the residents said, "Hey, Steve, we'd like you to represent us." And I took that on, and 3 months in, COVID hit. And 3 months later, we had a turnover in city management. We had to make some changes there. And it was a tumultuous time. It was like drinking through a fire hose. That analogy is used a lot, but it is
good analogy for that.
So much information, so much to take in at one time. It took a little while to kind of get my feet under me, but I think things have gone pretty well since then, and I've had a pretty good 4 years. It's been a mixed bag of emotions, but I guess I'm putting my name back in the hat again. So couldn't have been all bad.
Why look for re-election? What was kind of the driving force? You're like, hey, yeah, let's run this back.
So I think it's a function of being, when I ran last time, it was, I wanted to be able to represent my neighbors, my friends. And it's still that way. If the residents of Herriman say, or District 4 say, "Steve, we'd like you to represent us again," I'm happy to do it. If they say, "We'd like to pick somebody else," I'm going to support the other guy and say, "Hey, I wish you all the luck. What can I do to help?" I don't have an ego or a identity tied up in this role. As long as my wife lets me come home and my kids still talk to me, then that's where my self-worth and identity comes from.
That's true.
This is a function of trying to serve in the community. The reason I wanted to do it again is different than the reason I wanted to do it the first time. This time I feel like, because of the last 4 years, because of the drinking from the fire hose for 4 years, the education that I've received, the contacts that I've made, now I really feel like I can represent the residents even better than I could have 4 years ago.
Yeah.
There is a serious on-the-job learning curve that comes with this. My first month in, I was asked to make a vote about something that was a big deal. And the way that the council was at that time, 2 voted for A, 2 voted for B. And they said, "Hey, Steve, what do you think? You get to decide the matter." That happened a lot. It took me a while to figure out what was happening, right? They kind of set me up for a while. But that weight of those kind of decisions is a lot to take on. And now I feel like I'm much more educated. I understand the issues a lot better. I have a better, I'd say, a comprehensive view of how all these interworking pieces relate to each other. And I'm better able to make what I think are good decisions in the interest of our residents.
Awesome. All right. So we had a couple questions that have come from residents. We got great feedback on this. So the first couple revolve around the local economy. First question is, what do you personally do to support local businesses and business owners? And how have you led the community in these efforts during your term in office?
That's a great question. So the first thing is shop local. And I know that's kind of a cliche thing, but I really do try to spend my money at restaurants here and buy from grocery stores here and get my tires changed here in the city and my oil changed and do as much as I can. The hard part is there's some limitations on that. And I'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
In terms of leading out what I've done in the community, I have really tried to speak out about, hey, this business has got this going on. There's a special going on here. This effort could use our support this week. Organized some friends and neighbors to go out and support businesses that might be struggling or having some issues. On a city council side, there's been an effort to try and help create transportation solutions or zoning changes or land use decisions that have helped create and open new businesses. So from a business development standpoint, that's where I've been able to make some influence as a councilman.
The second part of that question is, how do we attract more businesses to Herriman? How do we make the process easier? And how do we allow those businesses to set up quicker and thrive better?
That's a multifaceted question. There's a lot to that, right?
Yeah.
So there's the question of what can we do to attract businesses to the city? I think there's an important thing to understand. We as council members or as a city government, we don't own land. We don't own businesses. We don't dictate what a landowner, who they'll sell their business to. We don't dictate what business wants to come into our city and operate in our city. So we're at somewhat of a disadvantage in terms of dictating this business is going to go here and this business is going to go here. So what we try to do is find matches between a land use opportunity and a business that has an interest in coming into our city. When we can match the right business with the right land use, we get options like Garage Grill.
Yeah.
Come in, make this awesome sit-down restaurant, this big influence in our city. You get a redemption, right? You get this incredible facility, this just awesome landmark kind of thing in our city, but it had to be in the right place at the right time. You had to have somebody who wanted to open the business. The landowner wanted to sell it. It was in the right place. The zoning all worked. So we get it and it's successful. One other thought about how do we support businesses in our city? How do we get them to come here?
Yeah.
We have worked really hard with not only some city planning, but with the county to really try and create some facilities out here that would be draws. So previous councils did a great job getting the RSL stadium, right? Having that here is a draw. It brings people into our community and those people can spend their dollars here. The hard part is we don't have very many of those kind of amenities. There's not a lot that bring people to the community, which is a good and a bad thing. Working with the county, we got the NHTSA bike course established out there in the southwest corner, which is amazing. Holy cow.
Big win.
There must have been 1,000 cars there that weekend 3 weeks ago. Was there for the big race. It was the semifinals for the state championships. It was unbelievable. There's a whole city set up out there. Amazing attendance. And those kind of events, when they happen, bring 1,000 cars into our city. Now, a lot of those were from our city because of the huge teams at Mountain Ridge and Herriman. But there were hundreds and hundreds of people from outside our city that came in, got to see what's going on in Herriman, realize how amazing it is, the facilities we have with the bike trails, the hiking trails. Now they can come in and eat at lunch at our restaurants, spend money at our gas stations, those kind of things. So that's a way that we've helped create amenities that attract people into spending money at our local businesses.
I love that. So second question from our community is about traffic and infrastructure. So traffic, as you would agree, is a concern for most of our residents. What have you done trying to alleviate that, and what will you continue to do to try to help create things that alleviate that burden on our residents?
Yeah, this has been a huge focus of what I've been doing the last 4 years. The traffic infrastructure, it's complicated how it happens. Ultimately, all the roads that get built, whether we call it developer built or resident built or state funds or federal funds or whatever, this is all money that's coming out of homeowners, taxpayers' pockets that's being used to develop these things. What happens is that the timing and the method by which that money is collected from taxpayers doesn't always line up with when the construction of these things need to happen. Typically, roads have been constructed using impact fees. So as a building permit is issued for a new residence, they will pay a fee for the building permit. They'll pay an impact fee. And it's a proportional impact that new house will have on existing infrastructure and creating a new road. So for example, if we build a road that only services one neighborhood, then that neighborhood would pay 100% of the cost of that road. It's easy. You build the road to service that neighborhood. The problem is when you have a major thoroughfare road or a collector road is what we call it, those collector roads can sometimes service many, many, many neighborhoods. Well, if you're collecting impact fees from hundreds and hundreds or even thousands of homes over 5 or 8 or 10 years, by the time you actually get to the construction of that road, the costs have gone up exponentially.
Yeah.
And you never collect enough from impact fees to actually cover the costs of those things. That's why we have, unfinished roads and connections that don't happen out here. For our district, one of the huge things that's a problem is the connection of Juniper Crest Road. It's not completed and come down where it would connect across from the Lees over here. That not being finished is a big problem.
It's devastating.
It's cost us a couple of really cool businesses.
Yes, it has.
Just because that road isn't completed, there's businesses that have chosen to go somewhere else. So the question is, how do you do that? It's millions and millions of dollars to build that road. And it involves many, many, many landowners. The issues get even more complex when you worry about funding, timing, landowners, costs over time. It just becomes a puzzle trying to put these things together. So one of the things that I've really championed was making sure that we're trying to find ways to build the infrastructure, at least the key roads and the connectivity, before development happens. So with the Olympia Hills situation, when the county entitled that land, that was county land. It wasn't part of the City of Herriman. So as a city, we had no say over it. We didn't collect any impact fees from it. All of that impact on our roads and all of the traffic that would come from that development was going to hit all of our neighborhoods and all of our roads, and we weren't going to be able to get any money for it.
Yep.
So even though that door was closed and nailed shut for them talking about anything to do with the City of Herriman, I reached out. I talked to the developer. I said, can we work together? Even if you're not going to be in the city, can we plan together? Can we talk about important roads that connect to our city so that at least we're on the same page about timing and alignment and where these roads should be so that we can collaborate and cooperate at the very least to make the impact as minimal as we can. And they said, sure, we're open to having that conversation. And through numerous conversations over a year, we actually got to the point where we decided it would be better to annex that land into the city boundaries. Didn't make everybody happy that happened.
No, but collaboration is an important word.
And $55 million in fees that come to the city to help offset the impact that we have to pay for those roads. $55 million sounds like a lot. In road building,
it's going to be gone.
In road building, it's not a lot,
No.
But it's $55 million we wouldn't have had before. The other thing is we used a new mechanism for funding called a public infrastructure district, or a PID.
Yeah.
The really cool thing about PIDs is that it makes new growth pay for itself. So all of the roads that are going to be built inside of the boundaries of Olympia are paid for by Olympia. The rest of the residents of Herriman aren't paying for any of the infrastructure inside of Olympia.
Another big win.
Big win. The other thing is that because of the way we built the public infrastructure districts, they can actually pay for their proportional impact on all of the other intersections that they're going to be hitting, right? So that development not only pays for itself, but it also pays for its impacts outside of the development. That's the kind of thing that has not been done before. We were one of the first communities to approve a PID, and to use it on the scale that it's being used. For Juniper Crest, we've been working with developers and landowners down here for years. It's been a 2-year project to kind of put all this together. It's changed from, high density multifamily attached housing to now it's going to be predominantly single family detached houses. When you're talking about that whole hillside, getting a little further away from Mountain View corridor, that makes sense to have that kind of property type up there. All different kinds of house sizes, all different kinds of cost points. It really fills out that quote unquote missing middle that we have in our city, so that people who have, a townhouse or a condo or even an apartment, when their family grows or they have another opportunity, they want to move into maybe a starter house or, something with a little backyard so they can have their dogs, right? That move up inventory hasn't existed in our city. So being able to do that is going to be a big add. And I know this is kind of meandering a little bit away from traffic, but the reason that that's important is that settling all of that, fixing all of the things we're going to be doing out there, talking about business, growing from what they were required to do, which was about 8 acres of commercial space, to now 17 acres. All those things go together using this new financing mechanism of a PID. That is what's going to get that road completed. The way that it's planned right now, construction should start in the spring, and it should be finished by next fall.
That'll be good.
We have a date in mind, but let's just say I think it'll be done before winter hits next year.
We'll keep our fingers crossed for sure.
And those are the things that could have never been done without this focus on these new financing mechanisms, without as a council us working together, debating among ourselves how we're going to use these things. I don't want to misrepresent any other council member support or ideas around it, but I had to do a lot of lobbying of my fellow council members to use these tools. It took some education, it took some debate, it took some back and forth, but I really think we're at a place where we can use these tools wisely now.
All right. So next question comes from our student advisory board from Friends of Herriman. Their concern is that with the 4 high schools and the 6,000 plus students, there's just not a lot of space or ability or amenities or activities for them to have. We know mental health is a big issue. What have you done in the last 4 years? What are you wanting to do in the next 4 years to provide these? I mean, we're not even talking about how many junior high or elementary school kids, but what are we going to do to be able to provide more support and activity for these kids?
Yeah, such an important thing. We have one of the it's a weird dichotomy. Yeah. Herriman is one of the youngest communities in the state. It also happens to be one of the most affluent communities in the state. That's a weird thing to get youth and economic prosperity going hand in hand. Usually the economic prosperity is in the older, more mature communities, right? So it's an interesting thing because now we have lots of children, tens of thousands of children in this community.
Yeah, we move tens of thousands every day for crosswalks.
Oh, it's
just nuts.
We should have a whole conversation about that one of these days. That's mind-boggling. But the needs of those people in our community are sorely underserved. Recreational areas don't exist very well. The parks that we have not been, we have some key ones, Butterfield Park and Crane Park. These are great amenities, but they're not in the neighborhoods where a lot of the kids are located.
Yep.
So we've really focused on changing some of our plans from, little small pocket parks to little bigger things like the Juniper Trailhead, if you've seen that, right?
Yeah, that's wonderful.
It's a little bigger amenity, covers a bigger area, has pump tracks and trails and those kind of things so that these kids can get out and recreate. We continue to look for opportunities for that. We're going to be growing some of our athletic programs in here. There's efforts working with the county and with South Jordan, our neighboring city, to build and with Rio Tinto to build a regional sports complex out to the west here. That's going to be
big.
That's going to be awesome. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to create expectations that it's still early in those conversations.
Well, and that leads me into my second part of that question is from the Sauk Academy girls volleyball team who I coach.
Yeah.
Is what are we doing for these? We know that the rec center is way overpopulated and not able to provide enough services for the athletic programs. We have the I-9s and those things that are way, I mean, they're always there. But what are the things that we're going to do to really provide, because we know we want space, right? Even the high schools themselves, there's not enough space for all of the teams to be able to have the adequate practices that they need. What are some of the things that we can do and that you want to do as a council member to really push forward this athletic development for these thousands of athletes that we have in our city?
Yeah, so part of it is winning concessions from developers that they don't have to do, right? There's legal requirements for open space when you do a master development agreement. There's a certain amount of open space that's required if you just build a regular subdivision. And frankly, those legal requirements are unsatisfactory. They're not providing what we need.
No.
So it is with, again, that word cooperation and collaboration, negotiation with developers that frankly have some flexibility and I kid the developers all the time. I tell them, listen, for being the embodiment of all evil, you guys aren't all bad, right? I mean, they're developers, and we don't, there's a sentiment of they're, all greedy and they don't have any interest in our community. A lot of them really do have interest in our community. True. They really do want to make a better place than they found it. Now, there's some argument about whether building thousands of houses accomplishes that. That's a different discussion. But they want to at least contribute. So just north of here, around the high school, there was a land development that was approved. That was one of the very first things I had to vote on in office, was this Mountain Ridge development up here.
Yeah.
And we went back and forth, and there was arguments over how many units they were entitled to. And there were all these legal complexities and what kind of houses they were going to build and where they were going to build them and all stuff. And as a result of all of those negotiations, I was able to get us a concession from the developer to give us a 5-acre parcel that we could use for quote unquote municipal interests, for the interests of the city. We've gone back and forth on some potential uses for that. But that's going to be built into 2 soccer fields right now so that we can actually have some practice. It's kind of programmable space, but being able to have our youth groups go out and have more practice space. We know of residents that are driving multiple cities just to find a field to practice at.
Or a court to play volleyball
on. So one of the things that's exciting about Herriman is, we've got a national champion rugby team in our city.
Yeah.
And they don't have a place to practice. They have to pay money to use a field to practice. It is so frustrating sometimes to recognize how little power we have as members of the city council. And even when we do have some power and influence, how slow it is to accomplish those things. Government is glacial. It's frustrating in some ways, but when you think about the amount of power that government wields, sometimes it's good that it goes slow.
Yep.
It requires some thinking and some planning and some organization, right? That's not just willy-nilly, we're going to go out and wield all this massive power that government holds. But we are looking at, for example, in Olympia, one of the first things we did is said, look, we want you to build. There's this thing that's going to be called the K Park. It's kind of how it's shaped. We want this park to be built before you're building all these houses. We want, again, put infrastructure in before the development happens, not wait 15 years down the road and then try and backfill in with a little park. This is a pretty substantial park. And as part of that, they're building an area that's going to be able to be used for rugby teams, for soccer teams, for some of the clubs to come out and be able to use that space, even host some events there. There's some, I won't let all the cat out of the bag there, but there's some exciting things coming over there.
There definitely is.
I wish there were more indoor facilities.
We need that.
But those are tough, man. They're expensive.
I'm working on that myself. So we definitely need that. All right, we're going to switch gears up. We're going to go to the lightning round.
Okay.
A little bit less serious topics.
Okay.
Favorite breakfast meal?
Oh man, I'm old school. My grandpa was an Okie farm boy.
Okay, all right.
Biscuits and gravy that's some good stuff right there.
That's hard to beat.
Yeah, good
Your
stuff.
favorite candy, treat, baked good?
Oh man, a good old fashioned chocolate chip cookie it's hard to beat, man.
What's the milk, huh?
Yeah, that's good. I don't drink so much milk these days. I think I'd drink my lifetime supply, but yeah, a really nice, good, gooey chocolate chip cookie.
That's tough to beat.
Yeah.
If you could have a meal with anybody, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh man. That's a profound question.
That's a tough one.
Let me take Jesus Christ off of that list. I think that's a pretty obvious one and an easy one for I think a lot of people would do. It would be profound. I would love to sit down and talk with George Washington. To win a war where you hardly won any battles.
Yeah.
To have seen the miracles that took place to found this country and the profound impact worldwide that founding has had on freedom and prosperity for so many people. I would love to hear his perspective on his legacy, on what we've done with what he helped give us.
I love that. Favorite holiday?
Christmas. Yeah, I love Christmas.
Right. I know the answer to this one, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Books or movies?
Oh gosh. I love movies.
You're a reader.
I love movies, but I'm a big reader.
You're a big reader.
I've never had a movie that was better than the book. I love the books.
I don't think that exists.
Yeah, the books are awesome.
What is your favorite movie?
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
The original. I've seen it
cinematically
so
perfect.
many times. Oh, it's just awesome.
Oh, that's a good one. What's your favorite sport?
Football.
And we'll let you give you a plug for your favorite team.
Denver Broncos. It's been a rough few years. But I'm hanging in there. This is about as thin as gotten this year, but it's 40 plus years of fandom now.
That's right. My Steelers our offense is very far behind you. Don't worry, we're right with that offense right there. What is your favorite part of Herriman? As broad and as vague and as general as that if you had to pick one thing about Herriman that you love the most, what is it?
I don't want this to sound cliche because I'm sincere when I say this, but it's the people. It is such a cool community to live in.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think people recognize how much diversity there is. I mean, look, we're a fairly homogeneous population, right? It's pretty white bread for the majority, but we have so much diversity. We have all kinds of minority populations that are really contributing in our community.
Yes, we do.
And I think that they get. I think there's a natural tendency to feel a little marginalized, but I think as a community, we don't want them to feel that way. We want these groups to be integrated in with everything that's going on in our community, to be a part of it, to share their cultures, to share their backgrounds, to come out and party with us when we're doing the Halloween, the Herriman Howl or Town Days. And I think that's just such an awesome thing that we have a community that welcomes that.
Yeah,
and we need to do a better job of connecting with those communities. But I think that if we can make those connections, they're going to feel pretty welcome here.
Absolutely. What is your favorite failure?
favorite failure.
Right. I view failure as a springboard, right? It either is it's crippling for a little bit, but it's usually the thing that springboards us to really find true success. So in that spirit, what is your favorite failure?
So I have an answer that's probably a little personal. So I won't elaborate it on a lot.
Okay.
But I would say that the failures that happened in my first marriage really helped prepare me to make better choices and like it always takes two to tango. I'm not no blame on her or me, right? It didn't work out and that's fine. But I think I was much better prepared to do it the second time, and it's been awesome.
I can empathize with that 100%.
So I would say that was a failure, but it turned into some pretty awesome successes.
I love that. What is the best piece of advice you ever got?
Ooh. Do it right the first time.
Do it right the first time.
Take the time to do it right the first time. Sounds like a
John Wooden quote right there.
Yeah, that's my dad.
I love that. That's a great quote. What is the worst piece of advice you ever got?
Oh my gosh. So much bad advice. So many things. Worst advice. Do what makes you happy. Because if you're only doing what makes you happy, you're probably not contributing very much in the world. You're not making much of a difference. It's okay to be happy about the things you're doing, but if it's totally selfish in your pursuit, I don't think you don't have a life of much contribution.
Fair enough. So at Voices of Herriman, it's important for us to be able to hear the voices of the people that we have coming on. And Councilman, I appreciate your time. I enjoy talking with you. I always learn a lot of things when I talk to you. But we're going to turn the time over to you to let you talk about your voice and your goals.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate the opportunity. It is it's a privilege to serve the residents.
Yeah.
It is some hard work sometimes, but it is a great community to be a part of. It's great to be able to serve the people that are here. I wish that, so there's a quote that's been in my mind for years, and it keeps coming up. And it's Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "We see the world not as it is, but as we are." So when we see failures and frustrations and things to get upset about in our communities, and there's plenty, right? There's plenty of things that are not optimal. That's a nice way to say it, right?
Yeah.
That are plenty of reasons to cause this frustration. I look at it from the standpoint, am I angry at this because of what it is, or am I angry because I'm wound up about something or because I'm upset about something? And I wish as a community we had the opportunity to understand how much opportunity we have, what a beautiful and a fantastic community we live in, how many awesome people there are, what great opportunities there are to serve one another as a community, and realize in the whole history of man, the 70 billion people that have lived on the earth that we can guesstimate, right? We are among the most prosperous and amazingly blessed people that have ever been on this planet.
Yeah.
And I wish we could keep that in mind and just recognize that even when we're stuck in traffic for 10 extra minutes, or that road is blocked, or another unpopular business, I won't name them, but an unpopular business opens in our community and people want to just like, oh my gosh, and they can, is that really worth getting bent out of shape about when there's so much awesomeness and good? And I guess my voice would be, I want to help people recognize it's great to live in Herriman, contribute to what we're doing here, be a part of it. I'm so impressed by Kevin, your efforts to put together a podcast like this, to hear stories from our residents, to be a part of the Friends of Herriman and helping to build the arts and culture and get more people involved in that. Those are the kind of contributions that anybody, just come get involved and make a difference and contribute your voice and your talents and your skills to help making this community awesome. I don't think there's anything that can stop us. This could be an example of what every community in the world should be like.
Sure could. Awesome. Again, Councilman Shields, I appreciate your time. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
In your endeavors. I don't know what good luck means on it, but I hope it goes your way. But you ready to send everybody off?
That's right.
Okay.
Herriman, we got you.
All right, welcome in to Voices of Herriman. I'm your host, Kevin Allred, and we're here in the belly of redemption with Matt Bello.
Hello.
Councilman.
Say hello to Bello.
Yeah, hello to Bello. So Matt's running for City Council in District 4, and we're so excited to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. I think it's a great idea. It's a great way. Podcasting is the new thing. I mean, nobody watches regular TV anymore, right? So.
Well, we hope it's working for us. So you've been with your husband Rain for 6 years now.
Yes.
And something interesting about him is that he is serving in the Air National Guard right now.
Yeah, he started in the Air Force, did 4 years there, moved up to Utah because we met long distance. Moved up to Utah. He's been in the Air National Guard. I think he's going on his 4th or 5th year as a medic. So
awesome.
6-year terms. So, yep.
Well, appreciate your sacrifice.
Military spouse.
Right. And we appreciate his sacrifice as well. So now you also just made the switch. You were a producer for Good Things Utah on ABC4.
Yep. Yeah.
And now you are enjoying the wonderful world of substitute teaching.
Yes. What a big jump.
Right. How much fun is substitute teaching though?
It's getting better. I think that right now I'm just trying to get my, I'm the mean sub right now, but that's, I think, because I just don't know what my limits are. I don't know how far I can push it. I did sub at West Jordan Middle last week, and it was actually really fun. It was a struggling readers class, and I actually had a lot of fun with them just because they had the personality, like they, make jokes to me, I make jokes back at them. And the teacher had already given me feedback. She said, well, I guess you did something right. I said, well, I'm sorry, they didn't do their assignments.
I love that.
And she goes, oh no, you did the assignment. They understood the story, and that's all I wanted. So I was like, well, that's good. That makes me feel good. So, but I love subbing. It's been great.
I love it. It's such a fun environment to be able to be in, and just, you got to be like the fun uncle. You don't have to worry about like all the rules. And
I won't be here tomorrow.
Let's just have fun. Let's get through some things. Let's hopefully learn something and go from there.
Yeah, it's been great.
So tell us a little bit more about you. What are some of the things that you enjoy when you're not teaching or producing? Or
man, well, I love to travel. I think travel is probably the top of the list. My husband and I, we've been on a few cruises, did an Alaska cruise for 14 days a couple years ago. And I will fight anybody that thinks that Hawaii is more beautiful than Alaska. Because after you do it, after you see all the different stuff in Alaska, you can see beaches anywhere. You can't see these types of mountain vistas anywhere else in the world.
All right.
Awesome. But yeah, so travel,
Alaska.
Do love travel. Honestly, I love hanging out with my dogs. Got 2 dogs, Binky and Tucker. Adopted them a few years ago. And they are a handful. So I do like taking them to the dog parks. That's a hobby. And then also just watching TV, movies, stuff like that. So, I do have my little audio hobbies and stuff. I'll do some podcasting and things I've done over the years. I need to get back into it a little bit more, but yeah, that's kind of my life.
I love it. So when did the political interest bug kind of hit you? What was your start of your political
that's
aspirations?
It's a good question. So for years, I heard something, I can't remember how many years ago it was, that city council and city government's the purest form of government.
Yeah.
And I didn't really understand at the time that much. And now as things, living in a city like Herriman and everything, I've started to kind of realize, oh yeah, we vote for the president. Well, we're voting popular vote. Electoral college is actually what's electing the president, all that kind of thing. But this is the only chance where you can actually show up to a meeting, get your voice heard. You get your 2 minutes of city council meeting, and 5 people in our city are acting, not at that night because it's against state law, but they are putting that on the agenda for a further play. If somebody is speeding down a street and is going to kill somebody, you can go and voice your opinion of that. And I think that that's where I really liked it. I know everybody says, I'm not a politician, I'm just a regular guy, which it's cliche, but it is kind of true. I don't think, I'm not a debater. I'm not one that's going to go out and be lobby for things and stuff like that in that kind of aspect. I think at a city level, it's just big enough, especially Herriman. It's just big enough that you can still get your feet wet, but not have to, get sucked into the political tube. So, I mean, I guess it was probably years ago, but more recently this year, it's been, there's been a few issues that have fired me up enough that have kind of said, if nobody else is going to do it, I guess I'm going to jump after it. So
what were those issues that kind of jumped you into that?
So being a homeowner in District 4, where my district would be, is a lot of high density housing. You and I, we live in this district and pretty close to each other. The townhomes, condos, apartments, there are some single family homes, but especially on the east side of Mountain View in the district, there's a lot of family or high density housing. And, the city has done a pretty good job about getting it all mapped out. We're struggling a little bit with getting the development of it. We have a Lee's grocery store now. We've got a few retail stores. We're getting some restaurants, just down the way by the Holiday. We also have we have a new beauty salon. We've got an Arctic Circle. We've got, it's nice to see that's coming. It'd be nice to see it happen a little bit faster. Really, words matter. And, sometimes that's all you need. Nudging the developer. Hey, where are we at with this? Where are we at that? If they get too comfortable, well, then, it's not hurting them. It is, but it isn't. So, the land is probably already paid for. So that was one of the big things in this area, but also kind of on the same line, speaking of housing, Rosecrest takes up a good chunk. The Rosecrest Master HOA takes up a good chunk of this area. And I've served on my own HOA board, which is a sub HOA of Rosecrest in the community. And it's very disheartening to see all the money that's being paid into Rosecrest Master HOA. And I pulled their financials, shortly before here, just to be brushed up on, but just the amount of money that's getting spent. And I'm not seeing where it's spent. They say, I reached out years ago and asked them about the manager, Logan, about it. And he said, well, that money, you're not going to see it directly because we're taking care of such a large area. And I said, well, we're paying our own dues into our sub HOA. Your money's not paying for our neighborhood. It may be stuff around. He goes, yeah, it's the stuff around you. Well, on their website, they have a nice little map that shows the parks and the city strips and stuff. And I'm like, so in the budget, it says there's tens of thousands of dollars going to that, but there is probably more grass in my mom's backyard to take care of. And I know she certainly doesn't pay thousands of dollars a month to have somebody come out and mow that grass. There's a lot of things like that have been adding up. Snow removal is another one that's we're paying for. It looks like multiple times we're paying it with our property taxes because that goes into the general slush fund for the city, to take care of the roads and stuff during the winter, the public roads. But then, in my community, they're considered private. So we have a sub, snowplow that comes in. We have an extra service. So we're paying for that. But then on the sub or on the master HOA, there's another tens of thousands of dollars going to that. But then also the city's paying for the city street. So I'm really confused. There's no transparency or accountability. So I guess that's the buzzword. I would love to see. I'm not saying I'm against Rosecrest. I think, there is some good that can come from a master HOA. Look at Daybreak. I know we're nothing near that size, but Daybreak looks nice. It looks great. I know they pay a lot in their HOA dues, but you're getting a great area for that. And I think that idea can be shifted over here, but I think everybody just wants to know where their money's going towards. And I think it's $184.50, I think is the dollar amount for everybody. So that's a sub HOA. So I'm paying the same $184 as a single family home is on top of the extra sub HOA fee, which I think just went up $114 is what I'm paying. So it's a month. So $184 a year, $114 a month. That's extra $16 a month that, hey, that could go towards a whole lot of other stuff.
A lot of things.
all these houses, I mean, that adds up quickly. So that was probably my biggest thing. Once I realized that I wasn't going to get anywhere, I tried doing the regular citizen route with trying to get answers, and I just didn't feel like I got anywhere. So sometimes it just takes a little stiff arm to get answers from these big organizations that kind of like to bully around the little guys. So like homeowners in their own association. So
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I think this definitely transparency is definitely the key word. So Matt, we've got a couple of questions that have come from from your constituents. The first topic that the biggest question that people have is about the local economy. The first question with that is, what are you doing personally to support local business and business leaders, and how can you lead the community in furthering these efforts?
There's a simple answer to that: shopping there. That's how I'm supporting them. I'm supporting my local Lee's grocery store because I'm shopping there. I'm helping. They are giving me product. They're bringing product in on a truck, and I go over there and I buy it. I buy my salt there every time. Sure, is it an extra 50 cents for my salt? And I'm not saying I don't go to Costco. I love Costco, and Trader Joe's over in the New One and Draper. I won't lie. But you know what? It is nice to have the Lee's right there. And right now I know, because I have heard people in my area say, well, it's more expensive to go there. It is a little bit more expensive, but really most of the prices, it's not. And it maybe in some things, but other things it's not. Plus, you can't beat their made from scratch bakery. I mean, that kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, and that's also supporting in a lot of ways. I mean, sure, some places need their own business, their own people to go to them, but then also, they have a great product that I've brought their donuts in before to work. Whoa, these are killer. Where did you get these? Oh, I'm going to have to make a trip out there. Cha-ching.
Absolutely.
That's showing the support there. It costs $0 to spread the message on Facebook. We see so many negative things about businesses on Facebook. Oh, they did this wrong. Oh, I sat in line at KFC for an hour waiting for them. Who's working? Or they gave me the wrong sauce. Why is it so hard for us to say, wow, I had an amazing experience over at, they're not open yet, but Mountain Mike's Pizza, or, oh, I just got the cutest new something, a bag over at Lock 31. There's so many ways to support, but I think the easiest way, just shop there. Show them patronage.
I love it. Second part of the question is, how do we as a city attract more businesses and make the process easier as far as like the setup, building, all of that, and then be able to get the businesses to thrive?
So I think the city could be more engaged. I think that the internet has been a great tool to bringing people together, making the world, the city feel a little bit smaller. A lot of people utilize Herriman Happenings, the Facebook page. I mean, that's a resource. Now, it might be weird doing official city business by asking questions on a Herriman Happenings, but there's no reason that same kind of following can't be built by the city. For example, we could have a database that's or constantly asking people, surveying, asking questions. What businesses do you want to see come here? Because the first thing is, if I want to go attract, let's just say Trader Joe's, because I already brought them up, and everybody wants a Trader Joe's.
Everybody wants Trader Joe's.
I mean, they're a business. It need to make sense for them. They have logistics to look after. They have costs and all sorts of things. I'm hiring and things to look for. But we don't see those as an average. We just think, oh, it'd be so nice to be able to go to Trader Joe's and get some stuff across the street. They're not just going to go everywhere that somebody wants them. That's not feasible for them. They have to make it work. But it doesn't hurt to get on the radar. And I think, and that's just, and I know that they actually, I think, do a pretty good job. Where would you want to see a Trader Joe's near you soon? Why can't the city do something like that? What do you want to see? I know people are always saying we don't need any more car washes or soda shops. And you know what?
Or credit unions or dental offices.
Okay, or dental offices. Dental offices, I lived in St. George for 7 years. They have the most dental offices, I swear.
So many of
Work in radio advertising, that was terrible. But I think that that's one of the things is engaging and asking the city what they want, and then utilizing that data and taking it to a business like we recently missed out on a Costco opportunity, but I think taking that over to them and saying, this is what they're saying. This is the data that's showing here. And here's our demographics for this. And here's this, giving that to them, because they're going to have to do the research. If they don't have to do the research because we gave it to them, that's one box check that we don't have to worry. That could be one step closer to bringing another business in. I think the problem though is we want to bring businesses in, but then the city just drops the support. Say that they're really good about getting everybody here, but what happens now after they're here? How are these businesses doing that have recently just opened or have been open for the last year? I mean, those are the questions that, sure, is it the city's full responsibility? No, it's not. But we are the leaders of our citizens in the city. And if we aren't showing them that we are patronizing and using and going to these places, why would they? How are they going to know? How is some person over in Anthem going to know about over here? Because they're probably not on their commute. They have to be there. There has to be some way to know that it's over here. Maybe the city needs to throw some events over here. Instead of, I know Herriman Town Center is awesome, but it's not the only facility. I know we have the Butterfield Park as well. We have great area over here. I mean, this new park they just built at Juniper, beautiful. And there's quite a bit of space over there that they could be utilizing, partnering with some of these businesses, getting the word out in some way or another. I mean, I'm a big believer in marketing. Marketing, I mean, that's a huge point, but some businesses need help. And, they need help from city leaders.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
absolutely. Second set of questions is surrounding traffic and infrastructure. Traffic has and will and is a concern for most of our residents. What do you think can be done to help alleviate that burden and try to make things a little bit easier for our citizens?
So I mean, the lack of public transit out here it's terrible. I mean, I'll be the first to admit, I mean, I have a car. I've always had one. Except for when I lived in Atlanta for a little bit, and they have an awesome mass transit system. I took that whenever I could, going to sporting events, going to certain things. I mean, anytime I could utilize that, I could. But here, that's not an option. Forgive me. Via vans are the UTA solution, and I will come down hard on that. We're talking about pollution in the valley and everything. I mean, the buses are usually on clean natural gas and stuff. These Via vans, I think, are regular gas vehicles, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, how is that helping?
And the wait time can be hours.
Well, and the wait time, I mean, I just tried to look it up at one point. I'm like, because my car was in the shop or some reason I needed to get somewhere. And I had heard about this service is better than Uber or Lyft because it's cheaper. It's $2.50 a ride or something.
Right, yeah.
I couldn't even find where the app was. I searched Via because I've seen that on there. There were like 3 Vias because I guess it's the service that's in different states. They do kind of a little bit different thing. I couldn't even figure out which app I was supposed to use. If I can't figure out, and I'm pretty techie, I worked in help desk for years. If I can't figure that out, this is not a good sign.
The tech guy can't figure it out.
Not a good sign.
We're in trouble.
And now, I mean, obviously people have figured it out. I see a lot of people, especially at the new Slick campus, because I just live right across the street from that. I have seen more of the vans dropping people off down there and everything. So it might just be a matter of, but I think that people not knowing about it and how it works, I would love to go and just pull random people in this district and ask them, even if they know what Via is.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. We know what UTA is, but is it Via? I mean, there's things like that. And I think just adding buses would help with traffic a ton. We're adding cars with Via vans. I mean, we can fit 2-3 people in it. So what happens if 10 people order a Via van? Okay, so there's 10 of them, or maybe they can carpool a little bit, versus a big bus that can fit everybody. It's on clean natural gas or liquid, whatever. It's a better overall solution. And if they're worried about it not getting used, well, how come we need to get a chance to use it before they can say it's not going to get used?
And that's the absolute truth. I mean, this is the only campus in the state that does not have a direct UTA line to it.
Yeah.
which I find just like horrible.
Yeah.
What other options are, I mean, you talked about the mass transit. What other options are you looking to bring, or rooms you want to get in, or relationships you want to build?
So roads obviously are the other big one. The people that are driving, like a lot of us, get stuck in traffic. 134th is terrible. Now, given a lot of that right after Bangor is considered Riverton for you, you get to Herriman when you're getting close into Mountain View, but it's still a problem entering the city. So that's where the city's partnership with other cities, but also those roads, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe UDOT is the one that handles inner city roads like those ones. They're considered a state highway road or a state maintained road because, Riverton and Herriman share it, or Riverton, Bluffdale, Herriman, whatever the case is. Who's pressing UDOT on some of these things? I mean, I know that, the current incumbent that I'm running against, I know that he's voiced that he's been doing, in that he's reached out and had meetings, and I'm sure he has, but there's a difference between a meeting and pressing somebody with stuff and giving them, no, this is not acceptable, what we're dealing with. This is not acceptable. This is silly, but the sign, I don't know if you've seen on 134th, they just started the construction for the new Bangor there. It says cation instead of caution. And I know that seems very minor, but it kind of tells you what the caliber of we need to step it up. We need to think beyond what, just putting a bunch of cones on the road. A couple months back on the Herriman Happenings Facebook page, somebody had commented, I had no clue that this road was closing, and the mayor got on. He said, well, we actually sent out a notice here, but and I did see that notice. So I knew what the mayor was talking about, but it got me to thinking, this is right after I decided to run, I believe. But it got me to thinking, why, if that person's asking, there's probably a dozen other people that had no clue either. And I know it's never going to be perfect. You're never going to get a message out to 100% of people. But I think that it's 2023. We have so many technological resources available to us now and ways to get messaging out that there should be, in a main artery like that, should never have somebody asking, well, I didn't know about that. I didn't know about that. Or if that is there shouldn't be that many people asking or wondering. So I think there's only so much we can do about roads. We can only make them so wide. We can only do so much there. I love what they're doing with the interchange. It's going to be terrible for the next couple of years, but I cannot wait until that's done. Bangor as a freeway is going to be awesome. I've already loved when I did drive to Good Things Utah every day. It was awesome being able to just go through, no lights. But that's the route we need to take. The other thing that's really kind of frustrating, I know a lot of people have expressed that because of the east-west going into the city on a few routes. I guess we have 126th, we have 134th. That's the main one. But there's been a lot of concern of what's going to happen with Olympia Hills. I don't think there's enough discussion. And I know that there's so much that we have, that the city can do, and there's certain things that the county needs to do, and there's certain things the state needs to do. But again, pressing the people that it is not acceptable to do certain things, and this is the only way we are going to allow it. This is still our city. The state has a certain level of power, but what we're asking for isn't unreasonable. That we want to get from point A to point B in a reasonable amount of time. I don't think that is an unreasonable thing to ask and expect from a state agency like UDOT to consider. They have no problem spending a lot of money on useless money on some things. I'm seeing them already digging stuff up on Bangor that they just finished a year ago. So it's like there's clearly things happening there. Why can't we, shift some of that to those areas, like to build the right infrastructure to get the roads out there that need to happen? Because otherwise, it's going to create more headache than it already has.
It really does.
So
the next two questions come from our youth. So this first question is from our Friends of Herriman group, the Student Advisory Board. We have 4 high schools here in Herriman. We've got over 6,000 students, right? And there's just there's a feeling that there's not enough opportunities for them to be able to do things without getting in trouble.
Okay.
There's not enough support. There's not enough opportunity for them to go and explore, have activities and those things. What are some of the things that you would like to see the city do differently, or what can you do as somebody who have 3 high schools in your district to support our high school and our upcoming students?
I think utilizing the schools, and I'd have to check to see. I know that because they're state funded schools, I mean, our tax dollars pay for these schools and everything. And why aren't we utilizing that space to do even more for, maybe they have a beautiful new theater. And honestly, I believe Herriman's is probably big. I'm not sure about Providence, but the Mountain Ridge Sentinel Theater is beautiful. It has a great seat. Why isn't there, we have our outdoor space out at Butterfield that they do a lot of, and done some great shows. We just had a few within the last month. But why aren't we utilizing that? Community theater, that gets people off the streets, getting kids off the streets to be able to do singing, stuff like that. I'm a big proponent of the arts. I didn't grow up as a sportsy kid. My sister and my brother did that. So unfortunately, I don't have as many ideas when it comes to the athletic, outdoorsy type things. But the one thing that comes to mind is the arts events have seemed to have a great turnout. They've had a great of people showing up, but also people that are wanting to be involved with them. Yeah. Why can't we utilize these public spaces to do something similar to that? I mean, I know if a private entity rents out the school, I think there's a certain dollar amount, but what if a city specific entity is doing, it may be a discounted because it's government to government. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at that, but that would be my first thing. Is that would already pull if we're constantly having groups, because we have awesome volunteers statewide, not just in Herriman, but people that are very talented that want to share their talents and get more kids involved and teenagers involved, and that's one of the things I feel like it's really been a miss for me that the city can't put more into arts. I know there was at one point a community center that was slated, and I don't know where that currently stands in this district, that would kind of do a lot more of that. I know that recently the city's had to put the squash on some funding for certain things like that, waiting for privatized. I think that there are ways that it can be done without being super expensive. That's going to drain the bank account for the city to do it. Sometimes it's a public-private partnership that does it. The George and Dolores DeRay Eccles Foundation seems to give a lot of money to state schools and other areas. I think they have something down in Rose Park area or something like that, like a community center. Why can't we reach out to donors like that are willing to move arts, and stuff like that? Why can't they help us out with that? That would probably be my biggest one that's going to pull kids off. It'll give them something to do after school. It will do a lot of things. And sure, it may just be a sliver, but hey, one kid that's not getting arrested for doing something he shouldn't it's a win in my book. So.
Absolutely. No, I said you're not a big sports guy. The second question does come from the Sauk Academy girls volleyball team, which I do coach, Go Griffins, but their concern was around the growing number of athletes and the shrinking number of programs. Okay. So whether it's, we know that the rec center is just overwhelmed by, youth programs and youth sports programs and things like that. And we see Butterfield Park has got, whether it's girls football or boys football, really from sun up to sundown, from summer all the way down. What are some things that we can do to be able to help develop these athletes, give athletes more space? Because there's not enough court space, there's not enough field space, there's not enough any space for these athletes, and there's probably dollars to be spent in that arena of athletic development. Understanding you're not a big sports guy, what are some of the things that you could say, like, hey, look, I could get behind this, or I would support something of this nature?
So I mean, not being a sports guy, but still understanding how important it was. I mean, my sister and my brother, they probably were saved in some ways. I mean, I don't know where they would have been without it. My brother still kind of, fell off the deep end a little bit, but I mean, who knows how far he could have if he would have not had hockey, as his outlet.
That's a good outlet right there.
Go beat some people up. But I think that the one thing that you had said is, space. We have a lot of space here, and the fact that it's not, we're busting the seams of the rec center to have space. Well, that should tell us something that maybe we need to devote more. I mean, they're all paying fees. Correct me if I'm wrong, everybody pays fees to play in these sports, and that's kind of what funds these programs. Why isn't it that we're not looking past that season and saying, okay, wow, look at the numbers here. We're having to turn people away, maybe even because it's not, well, this is clearly something people want. Maybe we need to put some more money towards that. Or, we all know that athletes get paid a lot of money. Utah has its own share of athletes that have worked professionally, millions and millions of dollars. Sometimes they're just looking for a tax write-off to get to. Those are the people that also could be willing to throw their name up onto a building or onto a field or something like that to help with that. Again, public-private partnerships. Nobody wants the government to have its hands in everything. I think that's safe to say. Pretty much everybody wants that right balance. Yeah. Well, that is the balance. We don't want it to get to the point where the city is just being overgrown with and being run by developers or, businesses that are running everything. We don't want that. We just want a nice relationship. And I think the biggest problem that is Herriman is not at no fault of their own. We're one of the newer cities in the valley. Newly established cities. We don't have the same expertise necessarily or the same history that cities like Sandy or Midvale or Murray, they have been around forever. And I think that they're not perfect. I mean, they do a lot of terrible things. I mean, everybody, nobody's perfect. No city is perfect, but I think that's one of the big problems with Herriman is it's young and being able to get people in. And I think that can present a great opportunity for us. Somebody like me that doesn't know exactly how city government works perfectly. I didn't get an A in government class. I probably got a B+ or an A-, but if somebody that doesn't know about this that can be a huge asset to somebody because I don't know what the rules are to play by. So I'm just going to be popping out ideas. Hey, why don't we try this? And then, of course, we're going to have somebody in the back that's going to say, oh, well, we can't do that because of this. Why can't we do it? I don't want to hear no unless there is a law or something legit that is causing us to stop. That's just laziness. A lot of times no's equal laziness. And I think that we can do, as a city, we can do a better job of that. City council is the one that is running the city. I mean, sure, we have our managers and we have finance directors and our recorders and all the people that work tirelessly to keep the city going.
We love each of them dearly.
They are awesome people, but that's the problem is they can only do what we allocate for them. Do. Yeah. Yep. And so they do the best they can. But if we are saying, this is how I want to do this, and then we present that idea more than just saying, hey, go look this up, make this happen. No, that they can't do that. They're only their hands are tied to some extent. Our hands are tied, of course, but not as tight as they are because we are their boss. So those are, hopefully that answers a little bit of the question, but I think it really, both of those from arts to sports, it really has almost the same solution. More public-private partnerships that can utilize somebody that's going after, even from a city. Maybe we have I forgive me again, I don't know if we have it, but like somebody that's specifically looking for grants just for the city and is a grant writer, a well-known one, or somebody spend the money. Yeah. You got to spend money to make money. And so I think if that means pulling somebody in from another state that has just gotten loads of government money. There's so much money out there at a federal level and even at a state level that we can capitalize on. We don't need to do this on our own as a city. We don't need to rely on our $114 and some change property tax slush fund to do stuff. We can seek out some of those people that know what they're doing and get them in here to help us out, get some of that money.
I love that. Okay, we're going to switch gears and go to the lightning round. So first question is, what's your favorite breakfast meal?
Favorite breakfast meal. You know what I had it this week. Einstein's, the 1-egg farmhouse. And then I also, if I'm really hungry, I'll get a cinnamon sugar bagel with strawberry schmear. Our Einstein's, by the way, I think new ownership of the last few months. Awesome. They were awesome. They did a great job. So yeah, I would probably go with that one. That's been my go-to lately.
I love that. What's your favorite treat / candy?
I'm not a huge candy guy. I do like baked goods probably a little bit more. Oh, shoot. This is such a tough one. I'm actually going to go with ice cream because I think, and actually I just got some last night from somebody that was just down the street in the Mountain Ridge. Ricochet Ice Cream. They have a food truck. Yeah. Awesome. If you've got to try it. It's really good.
Ricochet. All right, I'm done. Okay, if you could have a meal with somebody, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh, there's so many ways this could go.
Right?
I don't even.
It's a good setup question.
I don't even. Oh my gosh. Oh, well, I think. For some reason, that stands out in my mind. She was my first. It was my first grandma that passed away in 2003. I feel like I didn't really get to see. She didn't get to see. She missed out on all of this that has happened to me in the last 20 years. And I think it would be so much fun to just sit and just chat and express what, because I know she would want to just sit and hear how everything's gone. Now, I do believe that she's probably able to see it in some capacity, but it would be fun to get feedback on things. I was a terrible grandson when I was like 6. My mom didn't realize that I would remember this so much, but she used to sit on me because I would just have these tantrums. And I don't remember anybody else sitting on me like her. And she'd just be like, I'm not doing, and she would just keep that stern face. She wouldn't get a rise. I couldn't get a rise out of her. She'd be like, okay, well, if you're just going to keep throwing a fit, we're just going to sit here. So I think she'd have I think I'd had a lot of fun, hours upon hours, just talking with her about things.
I love that. What's your favorite holiday?
Oh, the favorite holiday, not Halloween. I am so sorry. My birthday is actually this Friday on the 27th. And I think that's probably why. Thank you. I think that I think that always shadowed. There's always the, let's have a costume party. And no, I don't. I want to have a regular birthday party. So not Halloween. I would probably say Christmas.
Christmas.
Yeah. I mean, Christmas is a good time. Brings everybody together. Here in Utah, you get the snow falling outside, the right environment. It's perfect. So,
books or movies?
Movies. My husband would say books. I would definitely be movies.
Okay, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, geez, that one's hard because I can find pretty much anything in any movie. I'm trying to think. I'm just going to go, and this isn't a favorite because I legit cannot pick a favorite. But unpopular opinion, I know a lot of people hated Oppenheimer. That just was in theaters. I actually really liked it. I didn't think it was too long. I thought it was very well done. I mean, I actually haven't seen the Barbie movie yet. I know. As
a father of 3 girls, I highly suggest it. It's actually got a really good meaning to it.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. It kind of throws people for a loop.
I need to go see that.
And honestly, I think I just did because we hit it so hard on Good Things Utah for like 6 months. I was like so Barbied out by the time it actually got released. Oh yeah. I'll wait for it to stream for free.
Okay, I know you said you're not a sports guy, but what's your favorite sport?
Oh. What's the sport that I know the most about? Baseball.
Baseball. Hey, that's a great sport. Yeah. What's your favorite part of Herriman?
Like part is in part of the city,
whatever.
Like
if you had to say your favorite part about Herriman in general, whether it's a place, a people, a thing.
I'm going to pick something part of Herriman and a part of my district. This is totally there's so many things, but this is something that a lot of people comment when they come to my house because I am lucky to have a view. I love how it sits up, at least our area. It sits up and we have some amazing views. I grew up in Sandy, so I always had views looking west. But man, those east mountains look awesome from Herriman.
The sunrise.
So, and you add on the beautiful city, like especially the city lights at night. I was just noticing last night, it was really clear, beautiful, just the sparkling lights. And you can't beat with fireworks getting shot off at that during like a 4th of July season. You can see fireworks from all around the valley. So the location, I guess, is probably, I love where we're at. I love where we sit in the valley.
The Zions Bank Stadium at twilight.
Yes.
That would be my favorite. That's my favorite view in the entire city.
It's beautiful. So,
Matt, what's your favorite failure?
Oh, my favorite failure.
The failure that, right? So I believe that like really failures ironic. Are like it's like a catapult to be able to moving forward?
My favorite failure would probably be when I lost my student government election in senior year. So Alta is this one school. There's a lot of kids going. I think there's 2,500 kids. So there's about 2,000 kids that voted. I lost as student body officer by less than 50 votes. To the point that my advisor would not tell me how many votes. He said it was really close. And I'm really hoping that failure doesn't happen again. If I'm going to lose, I better lose by a landslide.
By a landslide.
But you know, if I win by one, I'm fine with that because a win's a win, baby.
I love it. What's the best piece of advice you ever got?
Oh, geez. A lot of these generic, like very vague, big questions. You know, and I don't even know who would have said it over the years, but probably my mom or something. My mom's probably one of my biggest cheerleaders. Probably just never give up. Never give up. Just because something doesn't turn out doesn't mean that that's not a door or window to something else. You know, if this doesn't work out, it doesn't mean that I can't still be very involved. My face has now been plastered on people's doors all across the district. So I guess I could utilize, you know, my recognition to, hopefully further things in the city. You know, you don't always have to be on city council to serve the city. Yeah. So hopefully that's where I could get with this, but yeah, never give up.
All right. One more question. Okay. What's the worst piece of advice that you've ever gotten?
Oh, geez, this is really, really tough. Worst piece of
advice. It's one of my favorite questions, though, because, man, you get some goodies out of this one. Get some real gems. People that wish they probably would have checked themselves before they opened their mouth when they said some of these things.
Trust the manufacturer's manual. No. Especially nowadays, we get a lot more things that don't really have a manual, so do not trust that. Yesterday, I just put a ring on my mom's house. I did not follow that manual. If I would have, there would have been... It probably would have fallen off the wall by now. Had to use your brain a little bit, but yeah, don't always trust the manufacturer's manual.
I like it. Well, so we've reached the part in the show. We called the podcast Voices of Herriman, right? Because we want to hear your voice and we appreciate what you've shared with us so far.
Appreciate the opportunity.
It's awesome. But we're going to turn the time over to you to tell us a little bit more about the voice that you want to share with us.
So I think my big thing, I've been known to be a talker. If you haven't already known, I can talk. Sometimes way too much. But good communication is so important. And I think that's another thing that's led me to want to be in this position. There's a huge deficit for good communication in our area. And I think that I have that voice that will... but it's not all, a good communication isn't always about the talking. It's about the listening and getting the feedback back. Reading the room, understanding that not everybody has the same experience level. I love to tinker with things and learn how to do new things. And if I see a plot of land on the side of the road, I go home and I look on the assessor and be like, oh, who owns that? I do weird things. I don't expect everybody to do that. But I do think that everybody deserves a chance to learn these things, the city, or really it can be applied to anything, and to share and communicate with people. It just creates a better environment for everybody. I mean, sure, communication can be bad and it can give some really bad news, but realistically, wouldn't you rather always have that bad news than not have it, I guess, at all? I think that we need to take that, people negative and all the stuff where we're saying, hey, I don't agree with this, or I don't do that. That's fine if you don't agree with me. I'm fine with that. But if you have elected me in that spot, I'm not going to sit and tell you that you're wrong and try and play the game of, I want to be right, so I'm going to crush you down and tell you that. I want to be that good communicator for anybody, black, white, gay, Asian. I mean, you add in your ethnicity, your ability, a handicapped person, anybody. I want to be the voice for them. And if they don't fully understand, I want to be that one to help explain it to them in a way that they can understand. Yeah. I don't ever, I said it before, saying that if somebody that doesn't know something, I usually say it was bad communication from the person that should have shared the message. So if somebody in the city isn't aware of something that's happening, well, who dropped the ball here? Was it the person going out there trying to make time out of their day to do that? No, it was the person that was supposed to give that information in the first place. You know, it could be from the city, it could be from anywhere, and that's the person that's responsible for that. And for both people to walk away, even if they did disagree with each other, that both voices were heard, people expressed what they felt. You know, if there was a disagreement, you know, we both walked away feeling we were both still respected by one another. I mean, that's really what it takes. There's not a lot of that anymore. And I think that's one thing I'd love to bring back is more of that interaction. You know, I don't want people sending me emails, keyboard warriors, F you. Why don't you tell me why you think that? Why did you feel like have that much anger towards me that you wanted to send me that email? That's the discussion. Then we'll get to maybe the extra things, but good communication is key. And I want to be that good communicator for the city.
I love it. I love it, man. Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate your willingness to serve our city. It's definitely a sacrifice. And we wish you best of luck.
Looking forward to it.
You ready to send everybody off?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay, Herriman. We got you. Hey, thanks, guys. Thank you so much for being a part of the Voices of Herriman podcast. I hope you've been inspired, moved, and have connected with the stories and the passion shared by our community. As I wrap up this episode, remember, the journey does not end here. Keep exploring, keep sharing, and keep connecting. Together, we can create a vibrant, supportive, and thriving community. If you have a story to share, a suggestion for future episodes, or just want to say, hey, I'd love to hear from you, reach out on social media at Voices of Herriman and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Before we go, a heartfelt thank you to Mix@6 Studios for producing and editing our podcast. Head over to mixat6studios.com to learn more about all the amazing services they offer. To the amazing individuals who have shared with me their stories and our fantastic listeners, you make Voices of Herriman a meaningful experience. Until next time, take care, stay connected, and remember, I got you.